So I'm David Long. I'm the superintendent of Beaver County School District in Utah. And I think I'm just really excited. I think as educators and for students, we ought to be more excited now than ever. We're in a time where the opportunity is really fantastic for schools, but we seem to be struggling as educators. We seem to be struggling as students, as families, as parents, and I think a lot of that's on figuring out what we do really good as people and what the computers and technology and things can do really good for us as people. But if we would embrace that, I think more, we would find ways that education could become everything we want it to be for our kids.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
My name is Hema, Katoa. I'm the Dean of Students and Assistant Principal at the Academy for Math, Engineering, and Science. We're a charter school, public charter school of 500 students, and we're a school within a school. And I'm excited about digital teaching and learning, the digital transformation. And this personalized learning, I think it's just something that will help our teachers become better. Good teachers become great teachers, I think, if they learn to access that and learn to use it as a tool, that they can become better at something that they're already great at. I have a wonderful faculty. They do great things, and I hope that as they grasp it, that they can become even better at what they do. And that just means great things for our students. So.
I'm Sallie, Warnecke. I am the District Supervisor of Digital Learning for Salt Lake City School District. I guess I would have to say what excites me most is watching my granddaughter. She's 5 years old, and watching her embrace the world through her eyes is something that she teaches me something every day. One of the things that excites me most about digital learning in particular is that every child can personalize their own pathway. So they can direct their own learning. They can move as fast or slow as they want. They can focus on their strengths and their talents and their gifts to learn. I do feel like there are a lot of resources now that weren't there when I was teaching 30 years ago. In fact, I know there weren't. But I do feel that we have to be very diligent and careful with what we are exposing our kids to. And again, I'm excited about the opportunities for our kids, because I do believe that Utah is leading, probably leading our country actually in keeping kids safe. And there's lots of tools out there to do that. But I guess the most important thing to me is that I know that Elizabeth, my granddaughter, is going to be able to drive her own pathway. If she wants to fly to the moon, she can. And you know, I don't know that I would have said that 20 years ago. So I'm excited about the opportunities for our kids.
I think our most important work right now is around how to use digital curriculum. Curriculum mapping, digital curriculum, making that roadmap of resources in our school district. My administrators, my teachers, they're very engaged with this idea of personalized learning, of competency-based learning for students, of letting students move forward faster, knowing that there's limited resources in our jurisdiction. They want to reach out to other resources beyond us, so they have all those right instincts, but we're not ready to do that because we don't have any of this mapped out in a way that they can move students quickly through that curriculum, or accurately through that curriculum. I think we would do more harm to students than we would help if we were to jump right into that. So we're backing up and having the conversation right now about what does that look like to really map your digital curriculum and your digital path.
For my school, I think professional development, training our teachers how to use, this has been stated a lot here today. Technology is already there. And to be honest with you, I think our students are already there. And helping our teachers make that little transition from the standard practices that we've gone with for many years and trying to transition that into application through technology. And so I think training our teachers and putting these wonderful apps and these products in front of them and what will be useful, what they feel they could utilize in their classroom to improve their instruction, and then applying that and allowing our students to experiment and become better adapted to the future. I mean, this is what they're going to be dealing with when they find their careers and other things. So I think letting them experiment with these types of things at this level during their elementary and high school years, and they're better prepared to access higher ed as well as career paths in the future.
Excuse me. We are in a complete redesign of our educational technology certifications and endorsement. One thing that we are looking strongly at is utilizing UEN more than we have been. I feel like it's a fantastic resource. They offer wonderful PD that our teachers can take in their pajamas or face-to-face if they want to, so they can personalize their own learning path. And that's actually what we're doing, is a personalized learning path for our teachers. We're looking at technologies that are not necessarily something that the 3 focus items that we're working on. We're actually looking at all sorts of technologies and focusing heavily on STEM. And we're also, as a district this year, focused on social and emotional learning pretty heavily. So that's where a lot of our PD is taking place, in addition to redesigning our certifications.
So with the social emotional learning piece, are there any with the social emotional learning, are there any digital platforms that y'all are using with that, just out of curiosity, if you don't mind sharing?
Not at all. Yes, we are. We're actually using Nearpod's new digital social and emotional learning add-on. We're also using the Common Sense Media, the digital citizenship piece of that, which also deals with social and emotional learning, because there's a huge cyberbullying piece in there and bullying piece in there. So as part of the UEN contract with Nearpod, the digital citizenship piece is included. So that's something that all of our teachers in the district are able to have access to. I know that in most of our schools, the media specialist or the librarian technology teacher does a lot of that curriculum. That's part of our core, part of the library core. But we're using the Nearpod piece in the actual classrooms because it deals with more in-depth specific problems that our kids are facing today. A lot of apps that are out there that are dangerous for our kids, and they don't really understand why. So it's the big why do I not want to sign up for this, kind of a thing. And so it's having real discussions with our students at their level to understand, if that makes sense.
Well, as far as the augmented or virtual reality side of things, I don't know that we have the infrastructure in most places to handle that in a real way. There's a lot of augmented reality kind of programs that can work independently inside a school network, and that's fine. But as soon as you get to trying to add every device and doing things live, that's not going to work out with the infrastructures that we have out there. And that takes me to another one that I see coming. We talked about one-to-one for years. Most districts are in a one-to-one setting now, or they're in a situation where students can be on a device one-to-one in any given class period. That's a place we've gone as education. What I'm seeing happening now, though, is everybody wants to be one-to-one everywhere, not just in the school building. So going mobile outside of the school building and doing that on whatever device you have handy.
Yeah.
So being able to handle those BYOD situations is going to be a big deal here pretty quickly in education, because the more customized, the more personalized we get, the more people demand it to be readily accessible. And they want school to work like the rest of their life works. And we're not doing that as educators right now. And then the last thing I just want to bring up is the educator side of this, and along the professional development lines, I love hearing about other programs trying to personalize the professional development. I think we're years behind needing to have done that already. The fact that we ever sit everybody together in a group and do a sit and get all day long, we just need to figure out how to get away from doing that as educators. But the state, again, is looking at micro-credentialing and a lot of other ways to approach that problem. And I think we'll know we're arriving at the right place with this when we see the computer labs go away and we see technology move into the classroom as just a natural part of it. And it's no longer something that the tech coach does for us or teaches us how to do. The tech coach can be there for support still, but we need every educator to accept that they are in part a computer science teacher, and they need a level of literacy and competency to do their job right. When we get to that mindset, then I think we're starting to move down the road here into the digital age the way that we need to, because it's more like being able to read or do math. It's no longer that thing they do with that teacher down the hall kind of thing.
Well, for me, I think every school and institution is unique, and so everyone's situation is different. So our ability to implement a variety of curriculums and other things depends on what we have available, and quite frankly, in this state, depends on what the state dictates to us and what they tell us we have to have in place and what we don't have to, what we can't have in place. But I think based on the structure that your system in your own building, what you can do depends on your unique circumstance. And for our little school, we have unique forces that work on us that we have to play with. And so we can only play in certain areas of the sandbox. And we can only move as fast as we have funding and other resources available to us. And as some of our discussion today, you know, this is not a sprint. We're in a marathon. And there are moments in the marathon where I have enough energy to sprint. And then there's moments in the marathon where I'm leaned over and hunched over my knees trying to catch my breath. But this is, it's a long-term continual change that has to happen because it's what our kids are living in, our students are living in, and it's just what we have to move to continue to be relevant. So.
You know, I would say that in our district, we are moving, but it's kind of like the turtle moves. So it's very slow, and I would like us to move like the rabbit moves, very fast. But you know, in the story, the turtle ends up winning, right? So I think it is a marathon, like you just said. One of the things that has come up in my mind today, in speaking with Nicole, I don't know if she's still here, she might have left. She's still here? She's already left. Is who do you need to talk to about what? And I feel like the decision makers in a district need to always focus on the student first and not the tech first. And that is a paradigm shift that is difficult for me. I feel like sometimes decisions are made because it might be better for business, or the business, administration or administrators. But it's not necessarily best for teaching and learning, especially learning. So one of the things that we're really trying to do is to make sure that that we are included in the decision-making process, and looking at data to drive our decisions. And I think with our new digital learning resources that are out there, almost all of them now have great data tools that we can see immediate feedback and our kids can see immediate feedback as well, which will in turn allow them to even be more personalized in their learning. Because if they can see, like I believe you were talking about how the parents or the students pull up their scores. Was that you? I don't know, somebody talked about that. I don't remember which one. So the kids are actually driving conferences, right, in SEPs, and I think that's really important. So again, it is a marathon. We're in mile 0.2 right now, and hopefully we'll get to 26 before I retire.
I enjoyed the conversation. Just hearing the background on the latest trends and research and strategies for moving forward, I think is very helpful. When I come to these events, for me, it helps me go away with a better plan on how I'm going to approach the next school year and next iteration of digital teaching and learning.
For me, anything techie, it's kind of like a kid in a candy store. I start looking around and seeing what I can implement in my school. I want to get in there and fidget with it and mess around with it and just get to know it and how it can benefit myself and my school. Also enjoy the company of others. I'm glad that I have a team of staff members that could come and so we can work together on this as a team.
Very good.
I think for me it was when you were talking about the kids that are kind of moving out of our public sector. I had thought about that, but not to the degree that you brought up today. So I think that I'm going to go away from here really looking at that more closely as I work on a redesign even more. Maybe we might even add a different course. I'm not really sure, but I really found that the data that you talked about with the number of students that are leaving and the projections, we really do need to make a change in our practice and in what we offer our students. And I believe that we really need to listen to our students and what they feel like their needs are more than what we're doing right now.
So what are your parents saying they like about the shifts you've done in your schools or districts? What are they saying they like? And number two, what are they saying they don't like? And how is that influencing the school board and what they drive in those initiatives? Because money's tied to that. But what are they liking? What are they seeing effective? And what are they complaining about?
So as far as what parents don't like, they are afraid of privacy, student data being protected, and what these devices may or may not be doing to their son or daughter. There's a lot of worry about the social emotional side of using tech and where we're going that way. What they do like is having the additional information about their kids. So they like knowing where their son or daughter is and how they're performing in a specific skill area and breaking that down right to the standards in the classroom. The parents really like to know that detail. And they like it when we have a plan on working with that and helping that. And what was the other part, likes, dislikes, and what's being effective? Yeah. I think we're being effective when we're listening both to our students and our parents, and we're being responsive to that. And when we adapt as educators to that, you see everything start working better. When we're resistant as educators, when we're the thing they crash up against, then everything goes haywire and has nothing but problems.
ditto on that, but I know our parents really appreciate the transparency and the communication that the digital affords them. And so parents are involved. And my biggest complaint is, how come the teacher hasn't updated or hasn't communicated this back, or why can I not see this parent on Canvas or whatever format we're using? So communication, I think it's increased that for our parents.
I think parents are concerned about let me back up a little bit. I just gave a parent talk. We had a technology evening where the parents from all over the district could come and learn our different systems, like Canvas, like PowerSchool, those kinds of things. How to get in, how to log in, how do you look at a grade, how do you look at this and that, how do you respond to the teacher. One of the things my talk was about internet safety, and basically what's out there that you may or may not know about your child. And one of the things that the parents have talked to me about, and I get this every time I do this talk, is how can I know what they're doing? And how can I know if what they're doing at school or at home is really their homework or not? So that's a great talking point that you can have with the parents about, well, this is what you should see, this is what you shouldn't see, these are harmful websites, these are helpful websites, things like that. The other thing that they really like is the transparency, like you just said. They like to be able to see what their student is doing. The frustrations that they have is when a teacher doesn't keep things updated, because they feel like, well, this teacher in this class updates every day, this teacher in this class, I don't know what's going on for 2 weeks. And so, it's a good talking point, because then you can talk with the parents about, well, this is how you can reach out to that teacher or that principal or whatever. I do feel like our students like the fact that they kind of have the learning in their own hands, and I know the parents like that too, and they always comment on that. So if you're a teacher who's diligent about keeping things up to date, and that's where we come into play, making sure they understand the importance of that data so that the parents can help the student or can support the student in whatever way that student needs to be supported. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I love an email with a white page attached to it or some information, so I know whether I want to get into that or not. The email baiting kind of thing of incessant emails and, oh, it's been 3 months, let's send another email and see if they'll make an appointment and schedule time. I think we need to get out of that habit. So it would help that way. That goes to another theme I hope to leave the group with today too, is we're compressing our world with all the digital tools that we have. We're able to do more than ever before, but we're not using the free time to be human. And so we need to get out of each other's spaces a little bit. We need to honor each other's downtime or personal time, and we need to allow there to be some being human time out there as well, and resist our American urge to get out there and just do one up on the next guy.
I don't mind emails. I delete them just as quick as anyone else can. But you know what? I will look at those communications if there's a need in my school. So if I already have something in place, timing might be something that you would have to look at. Once we get the year going, I can't make a change mid-year. So the planning stages near the end of the school year leading into the following year is probably a good time, would be a better time to receive those emails for me instead of, the school just started. I can't make any grand changes right now because funds have already been allocated certain directions. And so the timing might be something that can be tweaked in order to get our interest, or at least mine. I can take a look at those things. If I'm receiving emails about a certain format or something that we've already made a decision as a school 6 months earlier, and I can't change, and it's just wasting time, your time and mine, and it just goes into the trash, at least for now. But it's...
For me, it's kind of a little bit different because my budget is kind of dictated by the DTL, if that makes sense. So I have a certain amount that I have allocated already every year, and then I do have some money that I can spend throughout the year. However, for me, I would say probably the best time to contact me is before USET, so that I can actually sit down with you maybe at USET or something like that, or right after USET, after I've seen what you're doing, because that's when I'm planning for the next year. So I start to ramp up for the planning for the next year in about February, middle of February. That's just me personally, so it's kind of a little bit different than, well, maybe not, I don't know. But kind of like what he said, once the school year started and I have my funds allocated, it depends on what it is, and if it's an urgent need, then yes, I can still, find the funds, but if it's not, then I probably can't.